Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And this is a special episode taking a diversion from my endless journey through the filmography of John Ford. We're jumping from 1934 to 2023 because one of the directors I already highlighted on this show, Martin Scorsese, had a little new film that came out relatively recently, Killers of the Flower Moon. And my wife, Jess, here is joining me to do this very special episode. Jess, thank you so much for coming on.
It's a pleasure.
I know Jess is very excited about this one as she read the book and was excited to see what Martin Scorsese did with the film, but we'll get to that.
That never happens to me.
There we go. But if you haven't tuned into the show, before we have 3 segments, we start off with coming attractions, and that's going to be for December 1st, 2023. It's already December. Crazy. And then we'll get into our feature film, Killers of the Flower Moon, and we'll wrap up with some recommendations. But, Jess, what are you most excited about for this weekend?
I am most excited for Godzilla -1, Shane.
Why is that?
It scratches the lizard part of my brain that likes watching big animal fight.
Well,
and it's ethical because CGI.
There you go. So, I am also very excited about Godzilla -1, as a lot of people are throwing around there that this might be the best Godzilla movie, and I'm like, that's a tall order. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of them, and especially with like the original Godzilla, and this is, like, the trailers look great, the buzz around this is great. By the time this releases, already have seen it, and we'll see how that turns out. Very excited about this particular one. I have a couple of friends who are humongous Godzilla fans, Kevin and Matt, both members of the movie club, and I'm going to be seeing it with Kevin, at least, so there you go, we'll have a fun time. My number 1 is also Godzilla -1, but I did want to throw a little shout out to Silent Night. John Woo is back making American action films, and this particular one, just based off the trailers, looks like he's back there doing amazing action work, and that's very exciting because he is one of the best action directors out there. But it'll be an interesting month of December, as I think some of my most anticipated films are nowhere near like the Oscar crowd of like wrapping up this year, but actually a couple of Japanese films. But I'll talk about the other one on our next episode, which Jess is also going to be on, but instead it's an actual John Ford film this time. But getting into Killers of the Flower Moon, there's a lot of background to this particular film, and I didn't do my prep work, so I'm reading right from Wikipedia. So this epic Western crime drama from Martin Scorsese is co-written by Eric Roth, who Roth has done such films as Forrest Gump, The Insider, Munich, Curious Case of Benjamin Button, A Star is Born, and Dune. So he has a lot of big prolific films under his belt. This is based off of the book by David Gran, focusing on a series of murders in Osage Nation out in Oklahoma in the 1920s, and some goddamn white people. White people trying to murder Osage people to get their land rights out from under them, and, you know, all that oil money chugging in. And this film is starring Leonardo DiCaprio as Ernest Burkhart and Lily Gladstone as Molly Burkhart, and Robert De Niro as the big evil white dude
William Hale
of the film, William Hale, and thrown in there Jesse Plemons in his big ass hat. But some of the key people to point out, so we have cinematographer Rodrigo Prieto, who not only might be nominated for this film at the Oscars, but he also did Barbie. So also great cinematography, absolutely. And of course Thelma Schoonmaker, who has edited like every single Scorsese movie. So they have a great, and really unfortunately, this is going to be the last film composed by Robbie Robertson of the band, who has been working with Scorsese since he made The Last Waltz all the way back in 1975.
Long time.
He's also always been the music supervisor, helping pick out the music too, like the popular music used. This is actually co-distributed by Paramount Pictures and Apple TV Plus. So, because Paramount would not foot the whole bill. And as it turned out, we can see why, because this movie didn't make its budget back. Worldwide, it's a $200 million movie. And it shows, and you all who didn't go see it and support it, this 3 hour and 25-minute epic.
Yeah, what a journey.
We do have some smaller supporting turns from John Lithgow and Brendan Fraser. Brendan Fraser, for some dumb reason, has become such a big arguing point to this movie for a character that's in it for like 5 minutes.
Yep.
Literally has like 3 scenes, if that, in this whole entire film. Like I mentioned, Robbie Robertson, so he died 2 months before the film's release. So really close. This has been in development since March 2016, when Imperative Entertainment won the film adaptation rights to the book. Scorsese and DiCaprio were attached to the film in 2017, with production expected to begin in 2018. Following several pushbacks and delays due to COVID, they finally went into production. Apple TV Plus confirmed to finance and distribute the film alongside Paramount. Took place in Osage in Washington counties, Oklahoma, and they filmed between April and October 2021. This did indeed have a $200 million budget. It premiered at the Cannes Film Festival this year, and eventually will wind up on Apple TV Plus at some point. But one of the most interesting stories about this production is the fact that, like, this was not supposed to be produced the way that it was or written the way that it was. It was originally supposed to be taking the perspective of the U.S. Tom White from the FBI, and Leonardo DiCaprio was supposed to play him. And then Scorsese realized that they really needed to spend more on like the people involved. So he shifted perspective to Ernest Burkhart instead and had Leo play him, and then brought on Jesse Plemons to play Tom White. But in the end, obviously, this film has come and gone. Many people saying this is the magnum opus of Scorsese's career, including Steven Spielberg, who said this is Marty's masterpiece. So, a lot of people having a lot of feelings, especially about the runtime. But Jess, after all that, what are your general thoughts on the film?
I am mad that I am not as eloquent as this one person who wrote for NPR. I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name. But they had said in their article that this film once again centers white men and their violence. And I get why Scorsese did it the way that he did.
Because that's what Scorsese do.
Yeah, so that was, I just read that line, I was like, damn. So this is what good writing is like. But yeah, I enjoyed the film. It didn't feel like its entire runtime. It didn't feel like almost 3.5 hours to me. And I do have ADHD, so sitting through movies sometimes can get a little dicey for me. I really enjoyed the soundtrack. Like the original music. I really like the drums intertwined with some more modern sounds.
Yeah, it was a lot, like a mix of like vintage guitar sound and Osage drums in the background, making a very interesting mix of music throughout the film.
It's very, it drew me in right away when the first opening scene it opens, I think, with that. I enjoyed a lot. I really enjoyed Lily Gladstone's depiction of Molly Burkhart, because for those who have read the book, you kind of know how Molly is, and that, like, she's pretty strong, and she's smart. I mean, she's very smart in the movie too. She takes no shit, which is good for her. I definitely take a lot of shit, so maybe I'll take some of that for me. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good adaptation of the book. It didn't spend as much time with Molly as the book did, because the book's kind of broken down into different characters. Or Tom White, actually.
Well, yeah, because in the book, Ernest is not a big part of it at all. I'll get into that after you're done talking, but I feel like it's how Scorsese's able to tell a story.
Yeah.
And it's his approach.
Like, I see why he did it, because he wanted to highlight how despicable this was. That was my interpretation, is that that's why he did it. He pulled no punches. I mean, it's violent. and upsetting.
But it's very interesting because this is, like, on the surface, this does not seem like a film Scorsese would do. Because Scorsese doesn't do Westerns. This is definitely very different on the surface, or from far away looking at this compared to Goodfellas and Casino and Taxi Driver and all, like, Raging Bull. And all of these isolated men with their violence, their
Lust for power,
and this film is exactly how Scorsese would tell this movie.
And money. I forgot money.
This story. Specifically. And that's what he did. He found the character in the story that is a Scorsese protagonist. We're not supposed to root for Ernest. Like, we're not supposed to root for Jordan Belfort.
It doesn't make him sympathetic at all.
And
Either of them.
in the end, he gets off scot-free. Really. And, like, he lives out his life without any real repercussions. Like,
there was just that one little bit about... At least in the book, too. Like, I know
well,
it was in the movie, but it was the one little bit about his son.
He gets out just as good as Jordan Belfort does. And that's the interesting thing about this. Like, this is Scorsese's way of telling these stories. And I completely understand the argument of, especially Osage people coming out and saying, like, this isn't our story, this isn't our perspective. It sure isn't, because it's a 80-something-year-old little Italian man telling this story. And, like, if this was made by an Osage writer and director, it would be a very different perspective. It probably would have. The whole entire film would have been from Molly's perspective and the community. But that's not what this is. And Scorsese took the story and highlighted the horrible things that happened, but told it through a prism that how Scorsese tells films. And every filmmaker has their perspective on how they're going to tell a story. And this is exactly how he would. And Ernest is an idiot. He's
a bit simple.
Simple and on some level oblivious to a lot, but less oblivious than I think than he wants us to think. Mm-hmm. Because the big looming cloud of it all is, how much did he really understand was happening, especially to his own wife? Who, I believe on some level, he really did love Molly. Mm-hmm. But
I think he did. But
his loyalty to his uncle, which also, so after I saw Oppenheimer, I'm just like, Oppenheimer, especially after they moved Dune, had so many Academy Awards in the bag. I'm just like, this. And then I saw this movie, I'm like, oh crap. Like, this movie's going to give it a run for its money in a lot of places. Like, these are Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon are my top 2 films of the year. Nolan, I think a lot of people think it's his year, but this could be Scorsese's last chance. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. You have Cillian Murphy, who seems like this is his year to be recognized as an actor. But a lot of people are saying this is Leo's greatest performance, which I think is a very complex and layered and interesting performance. I don't know if I'd go as far as, like, definitively saying this is his best performance, because he's given a lot of performances. It's certainly better than the one that he won an Oscar for, because I just didn't think that Hugh Glass had the depth that, like, a character like this has. You have supporting actor. I thought Robert Downey Jr. had it in the bag. But then you watch this film. This is De Niro's best performance in probably close to 30 years. Like, probably since Heat. Legitimately.
Yeah.
Because, like, I thought he was amazing in The Irishman. He didn't get the attention awards-wise for it. But, like, he is scary.
It's menacing.
He is very much not Hale in the book, in real life. who's a much bigger
He
individual.
was taller, I think. Much
But
taller.
It's a testament to De Niro, and he doesn't need to be towering over people to be terrifying.
It's about presence.
And his presence is there, and it works so well. And he has so many scenes where, like, they pulled so many of them for the trailer. He had so many great lines, like, you have to find a for your own. And, like, where he's, like, ripping into Ernest. Mm-hmm. It's like, miracles, they don't happen anymore. And just, like, all those scenes in the film are, like, him looming over his nephew, and you're just like, this is a scary man.
And Molly at some points,
yeah.
too, once she's drawn in.
Absolutely, and he is such a presence in this film. Lily Gladstone is so great, and runtime-wise, she doesn't have as much screen time as Leo in the film, but, like, she is the female lead of this film, and she absolutely kills
She's
it.
Great.
And it would be amazing to see her win Best Actress this year. And, like, I really think Robbie Robertson's going to win for his score. There's a lot of great competition, but I think his score, like, I've listened to the score for this, like, specific pieces of the music multiple times since I've watched this film because, like, it just really works so well. It's great music. It really captures the feel to this. There is a foreboding tension and an unnerving atmosphere about this film that Scorsese is able to create because you never know who's going to die next. And the way that he shows it are, and many times, these, like, very subtle edits to somebody just dying abruptly. And, like, the dialogue could be something completely different and just have that happening there. Like, there's, like, a montage towards the beginning of the film of some Osage people dying and being like, well, that could have been an accident. And then the very last one's, like, very obviously not.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yep. There it is.
Well, and I think he does a good job of making it frustrating, too, because it's like the Osage Nation is trying so hard to get any attention, to get any help, and people are killed. They keep, Washington finally sends someone, and that guy's thrown off a train and killed.
Yep.
Like, the justified anger that they feel, I feel like it does a good job of, building up to that.
Yeah, because it takes...
And looking and showing how systematic it was.
It takes White showing up for anything to actually happen. And Jesse Plemons is not one of the, like, the big three performances in this film, but he is one of the main supporting characters that gets a decent amount of screen time.
I thought he was faithful to the spirit of Tom White described in the book, because he was a pragmatic man who did have a good sense of humor.
Mm-hmm. Which, that's the thing, this film has an interesting sense of humor about it, but it's a Scorsese film, so it's gonna.
Yeah.
Like, there's very few films of his that don't have some kind of sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And a lot of his crime thrillers very specifically have a sense of humor. Because, like, you're not going to sit through Casino or Goodfellas and not have a laugh at some point. And I think some people complain about tonally, it's like, well, that's how these people are. And that's one of the things with the Brendan Fraser performance. It's just like, he felt like it was in a completely other film. He is this jackass lawyer that...
He's theatrical.
...is putting on, just like the way he's yelling at Ernest, it's like, you're killing your uncle! And just
dramatic on purpose.
Exactly.
This is my client.
And it's like, that's the point. Mm-hmm. And then you have John Lithgow, who's the prosecutor, who just...
He's so tired.
...is so good in everything. And... I imagine there's a longer cut of this film, and I imagine a lot of the courtroom stuff was cut, which, like, it didn't need to be there. Because this is not like a courtroom drama where we don't know who did what, and we need to figure out what's happening. We know. We've spent this whole entire film with Ernest and seen every single despicable thing that he's done along the way, and what his uncle has done, what his brother has done, and all of these things, and I feel like that was the part of the film that they didn't need to focus that much on. And honestly, if I had to pick any part of the film that was the least interesting to me, was that, like, leading up to the trial part. it definitely got more interesting again once Brendan Fraser's like, this is my client, and I demand to be able to talk to my client.
Yeah,
and
'cause he can't.
From there, what this chess game, or like Ernest attempting to play a chess game,
Well, they're
where
trying to find
he's
some
actually
codes.
playing checkers, because like, no, he's not fooling anybody in this situation, especially not Molly specifically. But I've heard some criticisms of them spending too much time with the minutia of the plan, and like him having to run around and do that kind of stuff. I guess one of the big things is like, if you don't like how Scorsese tells stories, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, he focuses on the awkward, like, he has made so many crime thrillers in his career, and part of that is showing the idiocy of people and the awkward minutia of it all. And sometimes, like, how the hell did they get away with this? Or, you know, like, I feel like it's equivalent to, like, the scenes where Ernest is, like, chasing around the idiots involved in this, just being like, or like when William Pale's just like, he was told to shoot him from the front, like, to look like an accident or look like a suicide.
Yeah.
And he specifically shoots him in the back of the head from a distance. And like, that kind of stuff is the same thing as the dumbass who walks in with the fur coat on his wife and the brand new car in Goodfellas.
The pink Cadillac.
And exactly. And De Niro having to be like, what did I tell you? And you know what? He wound up on a hook in a freezer. So like, it's those kinds of things. It's like, it's part of the story. And I feel like what the challenges with this particular film is the baggage that goes along with it. Because this isn't just like a bunch of wise guys getting caught being mobsters. Like, this is a systematic demolition of a whole entire nation of people. And
to ensure that it funnels all the money right down.
Well, and it's very interesting, and I'm going to quote Game of Thrones here. William Hale is Tywin Lannister. He doesn't need to be the governor of this territory. He doesn't need to be the one who runs this territory. He doesn't even need to have the most money out of anybody in this territory, because that's the Osage people. It's power. And that's what Tywin Lannister had, which is why he never wanted to be on the Iron Throne. And because there's one point, it's like, why don't you want the power of the throne? It's like, if you think the person that sits on this throne is the most powerful person in Westeros, you don't understand. And that's exactly William Hale in this situation. He doesn't need, like, it's the respect that he has in the community that's the scariest thing. Like, he's like this fatherly figure to Molly and her family, like her sisters, and he's killing them right out from under them in the coldest way possible. And like,
taking out life insurance.
Ernest is an interesting protagonist for us to go through this story with, because it's just looking at this man who came in with, you know, not like nefarious purposes. Maybe not like, he didn't come to be like, oh, I want to make a name, I want to make a living for myself and stuff like that. It's like, I do like them women.
Yeah, I came back from war and I went to join my uncle.
Yeah. And
That's
he's like, do you like women? It's like, well, I do love those women, sir. And it's just like, the whole entire game that Hale's playing with Ernest, and then it leads up to a really powerful moment at the end of this film in terms of that last scene that they have Ernest and Molly together. But like, this film's impeccably acted, it's impeccably directed. The pacing's ridiculous for a 3 hour and 26 minute movie. I didn't have problems like at all with this movie. Sitting through in theater, and trust me, I have problems sometimes sitting in a dark theater with stuff, and for movies like less than half this length. And this film really impressed me, and it's why it's my second film. Like, I think the only reason that this isn't my number one is because I still can't get past the impact of the ending of Oppenheimer, and that movie, like the final lines of that film still sit with me, and I watched that back in July. It's November. It's been 4 months since I saw that movie. But this film is so impressive and towering in its technical prowess. Scorsese's making some of the best movies he's ever made, and this dude's 80.
It's never too late, guys.
And he keeps finding people to bankroll them, which... that's a whole other story, because like this if you were expecting this to make up money at the box office,
it's about prestige.
like this is not the kind of movie that you spend $200 million on. Which honestly, this really should have made more money. If Oppenheimer can make like $900 million worldwide, and like this movie's 25 minutes longer.
This wasn't packaged with the Barbie.
True. Once you hit 3 hours, though, like, how much more is 25 minutes? To be honest.
True.
But I guess, Jess, what other things did you want to add in terms of what stood out to you about the film?
I think we covered everything.
Okay. But this is an impressive film, a towering film. This... Did I put this in my top 10? Scorsese films at this point. It's a really impressive film, and it's crazy to think that I have it at number 8, right below Goodfellas, right above The Color of Money. I do love The Color of Money.
This is true.
And you could go back and watch all of those wonderful episodes of Welcome to the Wasteland that I did for all of Scorsese's filmography. But like this film is gonna stick with me. This better get a Criterion release like The Irishman.
Oh, I'm sure it's already on the queue.
I'm gonna buy it so quick. Want it so bad. But at this point then, let's shift gears into our final segment of the show, which is recommendations. So Jess, what would you like to recommend to everybody?
I would love to recommend In Bruges. I quote this film semi-regularly. Maybe not my most quoted, but I have come close to fighting someone over the fact that they told me it was boring. And it still gets
In
me
Bruges?
a little bit. Yeah, I was like...
On the job? In Bruges?
What part did you find boring specifically? I don't think it's boring.
It's not boring.
No, but I really like In Bruges a lot. I think it's got a really funny sense of humor, and I like Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell both a lot, and also
the Rafe
Fiennes. Yes.
That interaction between him, Brendan Gleeson and him using the C word.
Yeah,
so many times.
It's quick. I think it's
Martin McDonagh is fantastic and definitely knows how to hit on some deep themes while being very darkly funny.
We love some good Irish humor.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why I love Banshees of Inisherin so much.
Is that what you're recommending?
No, but I could. But my 3 recommendations. So a new film. This is kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel because I haven't I just recorded another episode of this 2 days ago. But we did see Wish. It's not as bad as everybody would like everybody to hate on that Chris Pine song from it. It's a fun time. It's an interesting meta film about the 100th anniversary of Disney.
Mm-hmm. Lots of references.
Ariana DeBose, great to hear her in this film, and Chris Pine is just so great as this villain.
More fun than anyone.
So much fun. My watch list film that I watched today is The Red Balloon, which is one of the most famous short films ever created. It is literally a film about a boy with a red balloon walking around a city. And, getting in people's way, running into other kids who try to steal his balloon. And it is a beautiful, simple film that just hits in a really impressive way. And it's 34 minutes, it's a short film. It was a fun time, and I really enjoyed it. It's on Max, because of course it is. And my rewatch of one of my own films, my mom was here to celebrate my birthday, and it's that time of year, so we watch the Muppet Christmas Carol as I stare over at all of my new pop figurines of Marley and Marley, Scrooge, Charles Dickens, and Rizzo the Rat, and Fozziwig. So, Muppets Christmas Carol is one of my favorite movies of all time. Watch it every single year with my mom for Christmas, and it's an absolute blast. And Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge is fantastic, and it has the best adaptation of Marley in any of these Christmas Carol films, because Statler and Waldorf are absolutely amazing, and their song Marley and Marley is a jam. And I sing every word every time it comes on. Just ask my mom and my wife.
It's true.
But
my mom sings along too, though. She joins in.
Oh, love feels like Christmas.
I don't know the words as well. I enjoy it though, but
I definitely sing to the Scrooge song at the beginning. And then Marley and Marley, I do know that whole entire song. And then It Feels Like Christmas, another jam with the Ghost of Christmas Present, who's this just giant, lovable Muppet person.
Guy. Yeah, we love that guy. He's a good time.
Come in and know me better, man.
We love him better than the scary CGI ghost lady.
We're Marley and Marley. Whoa!
Avarice and greed.
Yep.
It's the one line I do remember. See,
it's like, you remember when we evicted the whole entire orphanage? All of those little kids in a snowbank with their frostbitten teddy bears. That whole thing, and then his school teacher, headmaster, was Sam the Eagle. It's like, ooh, business. The American way. It's the British way. And just, I'm going to stop now before I quote this whole entire movie. But that is a wrap on this special episode of Welcome to the Wasteland, focusing on Killers of the Flower Moon. But Jess, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in, supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.